some of these beautiful people in the Greater Than AIDS video. They shared their stories, and now we invited our second part of the panel is to talk about family and to talk about taking care of each other and to talk about acceptance and to talk about talking and just to talk. And so I'm not going to do much more talking. Okay. I'm going to let you talk. This is Bobby and his daughter, Yolanda. They, I read their really moving story. They weren't on the video here, but I actually saw a wonderful video of you not long ago at NABJ and read your story by George Curry. Very wonderful and moving, and so we'll have you talk about that. I'm meeting today for the first time Dion and Reggie. They're a couple. They will talk to you about, you know, what's going on with them. You heard a little bit on the video. Wonderful, and thank you for being here. And we have Martinez and his mother, Teresa. You heard them on the video. That was, I teared up when I, you know, that's beautiful.
Me too.
Yeah, okay. I'll get the Kleenex. I'll step aside. Please start. I know you, you guys are family. You know how to talk with each other and do this, so please share. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you. Before we get started, I wanted to say something earlier because I'm wearing two hats. I'm a father, first of all, and this is my daughter, and I love my daughter. But there was something said in the last segment about telling our own story. I also publish a newspaper, the West Side Gazette. That's Broward County's oldest and black-owned newspaper. So many times the media has portrayed this disease as something different. You know, when it's dealing with one race, it's one thing. When it's dealing with another, it's another thing. Then there's the money issue. Until we're able to tell our own story through our own owned media, we will never get the recognition and understanding what this true thing is about. Your black newspapers, we don't use them enough. We talk about how can we get this voice to the people to hear it by telling the stories. We don't have the capabilities of covering every issue, but those of you who sit in position, who know the real deal about what's going on, if you get that information to the black press, your story would be told. We have over 18 million readers across this country, more than Newsweek, more than the Wall Street Journal, more than any other entity, but we do not use it. So you're sitting here wondering about how you're going to get this information out? Use your black newspapers. Now, that's my spiel from that. Okay. Now, thank you.
I'd like to jump on that ship because I really appreciate what Tony was saying as well. I think one of the first things we have to do is we have to identify the fact that we're engaged in a war.
That's right. Yeah.
And if for us to look at it as anything less would be ludicrous.
Okay.
And as a result, we have to understand who our enemy is. Now, we understand that there's a post-traumatic stress disorder that we're dealing with, and that's the broader scope, because of the enemy that we're fighting is fear, ignorance, stigma, and as we were talking about earlier, I defy most folks to actually define stigma. Come on. I think as a black man, and you know, and what we have to remember also is that we're all affected. The numbers show us that we're all affected. We're all connected. And if you don't believe that, let's suck the air out this room right now. And what the sister said about hugs is simple, but it's so profound. Because love heals all. It's the only thing. We're not going to heal this thing. And just for a point of justification, I was diagnosed in 1988, probably contracted in 84. When I was diagnosed with AIDS. You know, it's 25 years. My wife and I have been together, serial discordant relationship. Through God's grace, she still remains HIV negative. That's for God. That ain't for us. Because plenty of times I didn't want to use a condom, and I know this is sister speaking. I'm not going to get out the way. And plenty of times she didn't want to use a condom. But we like stupid at the same time. She said we don't get stupid at the same time, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. But we have to understand that it's not personal. That it's a microbe that we're fighting against, a very intelligent virus. As a matter of fact, they call it a retrovirus because they can't classify it as a virus. That's how smart it is. It's evolving quicker than we are because we're reticent to have the conversations, the real conversations that are necessary. And one of the real conversations necessary is that Love is the healer, and we treat sex as a sport. And so if we can't educate sex in a different kind of a way because of our own hypocrisies, then we're never going to have those conversations. And heterosexual, this is sister speaking, I'm going to move out of the way on this. Tony was right. Until we start having brothers in the room, heterosexual brothers in the room, then sisters are going to continue to get, until they feel more comfortable about being able to share their status, you know, and I apologize for the brothers. I think my definition of stigma is being more concerned with what other people think about you than you are about what you think about yourself. But to microcosm that is being afraid of being considered gay, being afraid of being considered a drug user. And until we get beyond that, until we get beyond the homophobia and have those conversations and redefine who we are, then it's gonna be what it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
Go ahead, Daddy and daughter.
Okay. well, I remember when I first got the call telling me that my little loved one here was HIV positive. She had applied to go into the Air Force and had taken the test. The test came back. They called her and said, "Well, there's some abnormalities in your blood work, so we got to ask that you go see another doctor." So she did, and I got a call. How old was she? What, 18, 19, 17. So at 17 years old, I got a call telling me that shoot.
It's all right. Talk about it.
That she was HIV positive. So I was 16 years old when when we had a daughter. So at 16, now she's 17. I wasn't there throughout her early life. I mean, I supported her financially and as well as I could from an emotional standpoint, but I wasn't there. So I had some wrestling to do with myself, trying to figure out, well, if I was there, would this have happened? Anyway, at 17, she's now been diagnosed as HIV. Was it AIDS? What's the proper term? HIV positive. So here I am. So what are you going to do? You got a daughter who's HIV positive. Well, heck, you can't put her back in the oven. So we began to educate ourselves as much as we could about this, and instead of running from it, trying to hide it, we became closer. And Reggie, you're absolutely right. Love can conquer all, but it's that stigma that you have to get over because of how society frowns upon this disease. We think that we're all of this, and therefore we can't be affected by certain things. But the moment we come out from under that stigma, the comfort level, and we pray and hope, and I know I'm rambling, but we pray and hope that other people can see our strength, can see the fact that we can come out, and then other folk can come out and share their stories. But the bottom line of it is, as a father whose only daughter is HIV positive, and gives me more reason to want to be involved, and can smile and say I'm extremely proud of her and what she's doing and what she's overcome. There's a lot more to it than that, but I'm not going to take up this whole program and talk.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Yolanda Reed. I have been HIV positive. I was diagnosed in 1989, although I contracted the virus at the age of 15. And the tears that I shed a little while ago were not tears for me being HIV positive. They were tears to see my father in pain and what he's going through. Because I'm living with this. I've been living with it for 20-some odd years, and I'm going to continue to live with it. The young lady made that statement about loving and hugging. And like I remember how my father felt assuming some of the responsibility of my actions. And those were my actions. Those were not my father's actions. He's not responsible for what I did. I'm responsible. And as a black woman, I have zero tolerance for ignorance in other black women. It is our responsibility to educate ourselves. It is our responsibility to take care of ourselves. One of the main reasons that this virus is transmitted so frequently among African American women, you know, we sit around and we depend on others to take care of us, right? And when we depend on those others to take care of us, then they get to dictate and demand what it is we should do and how we should do it. And I'm talking about condom use. So we need to learn how to have that dialogue. Baby, let's try this. I know you say it doesn't feel real or it doesn't feel as good, but let me do it this way. Let me introduce it to you this way. You know, you said that you wanted to have a real discussion, okay? I work in this field. When I was diagnosed 23 years ago, I didn't know that today I would be educating others about this disease. I didn't know that I would be assisting newly diagnosed black women, black men, white women, white men about the healthcare system and introducing them to medical care, getting them into substance abuse treatment. I'm a recovering addict, have been for 6 years. When I was diagnosed with this virus, oh yeah, I cut up. I went through the denial phase. I don't know the 7 different phases of grief, but I'm sure I went through them. But today I'm in a place of acceptance. And I truly believe that I'm not dying from this disease, I'm living with it, and I believe that it is my responsibility as a black woman to educate so that nobody else, Miss Carolyn said it, so that if I can sit up here and if I can say this, then maybe I can prevent somebody else from having to go through this.
No glove, no love. Simple. You know, Reggie and I got pregnant. We got tested. When we went and got tested, came up positive, I came up negative. It's like, what we gonna do? He said, we're gonna keep living and we're gonna buy some condoms. We lived with a secret for 16 years as a direct result of the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS. I didn't want to be judged. I did not want anybody to look at me and wonder what was wrong with me, that I would be involved with a man who was HIV positive and supposedly I wasn't. And we got free about 7, 8, 10 years ago? Maybe about 10 years ago. And I was angry. Oh, I was so angry with him. Went to my church and gave a testimony. My church.
Her church. It was her church.
I thought I would lose my mind because I did not want to be judged in that arena. But I tell you today that that's when I got free. I didn't know that I was in self-bondage due to holding on to a secret that was killing me, that I didn't know was killing me until I got free from it. You know, stigma is caring more about what you think about me than what I think about myself. And today I think that I'm greater than AIDS. I think that women, we as women, need to protect ourselves. I cannot hold Reggie responsible for my life. You know, they got the women's condoms out here. Y'all may want to check them out. You know, because that will empower women. You want to get with somebody, they don't have a condom, I got one. You don't want to use a condom. We can't do this. You know, there's been times when, in the heat of the moment, it thinks, you know, the body said, yeah, let's do this. But the mind said, are you out of your mind? No, we ain't doing this. And that's what we say when we say that we don't get stupid at the same time. You know, we've been together 25 years. I'm a recovering addict too. Yesterday I celebrated 25 years.
She sure did. She sure did.
It's only through his grace. I cry when I feel y'all. I cry when I'm crying because of the love that I feel between you and your daughter. Yeah. You know, I feel that same love with my kids and my husband, and when my husband got sick. You know, my deal is, what about us? The affected community. Because I'm on this emotional roller coaster with him. And in 2005, when they said on January the 4th, he got on June 4th, if he's here by the 8th of June, he'll be a miracle. And the doctor came to the house with the morphine patches. And I was like, what is going, they're talking about, he's dying. You know, and God spoke, I listened, and we're here today.
Amen.
You know,
That's right.
But there's an unmet need for the families affected by HIV and AIDS. We need help.
Yep.
There's some emotional stuff that goes on with this virus. We can see the physical, we can see the spiritual, but there ain't nobody talking about the emotional. There ain't nobody talking about when y'all get depressed and you go into that bubble and your mother and me and your daddy, we can't get in because y'all are locked down. And it's like, let me in, just let me help you, let me help you. You know, the pain that we go through when you get a cold. Oh my God, what's gonna happen next? You know, help the family. We have kids, we have children that are 33, 30, 28, 21, and 3 grandchildren. That when he got sick, we all got on the roller coaster ride. And he's like, let go. I'm like, no, I don't want to go there. And he took us with us anyway. And when we got to the end, there was nobody there. You know, when his mom came and she was like, well, what's going on with my son? And she didn't want to touch him. Wow. And I needed somebody to hug me and tell me, it's going to be all right. God got this. But I had nowhere to go. People came, they loved, they brought, you know, they gave so much. But I was dying right here because there was no place for this woman, this wife, that was affected to go to get the help that she needed. To be able to sit down and tell somebody, I'm scared. So I had to act as if. Thank God for crocheting. Because I picked up my crochet needles and I made me a duster. And I have not put my crochet needles down since because with every stitch, it saved my life. And I'm just glad that y'all are having us here today so we can have an honest conversation.
She said she didn't know what she was going to say. Thanks to Phil Wilson and Black AIDS Institute, Kaiser.
Ooh,
Thank
y'all.
God.
Ooh, stop, y'all.
Thank God I'm alive.
Yep.
And thank my wife and my family for loving me back to life. You know, we are engaged in the war. And for us to look at it any differently is ludicrous. And until we really identify what the enemy is, you know, I always like to say our immune system is our last line of defense. I've learned a lot, and there's no way in the world that I could possibly convey to you all that I've learned in the last 25 years in a few minutes. But I bet most folks that haven't been tested, or even if you have been tested, don't know what your T-cell count is right now. And the reason I say that is because the healthcare bill, all the environmental toxins, all the other things that we're dealing with play a big part in lowering our immune system. We think we're taking it in a small window, but it's bigger than just the virus. The virus is just attaching itself to hosts that are most likely the weakest link. So I only say that to say that we're all very eligible, especially if you're engaged in sexual relationships. What's important is we don't really understand the terms that we're using. We use terms like stigma, and I'm not sure that we have properly defined it. We use terms like serodiscordant relationships, of which this panel really shows the diversity of the types of serodiscordant relationships that we're all involved in. If you believe the numbers of 1.2 million people being infected, then that means that we all know someone, are engaged in a relationship with someone, are the parents of someone, or quite possibly have had sex with someone who is HIV positive. So we're all in serodiscordant relationships, but we've broken down that term to something a little different. It'll make it a little positive. Just like war is a kind of a negative connotation, we've broken that down to wellness, awareness, and recovery. Because it's a spiritual, mental, and physical disease, and by the time it gets to the physical, it's already dealt with the mental and the spiritual. Everything happens in the spiritual before it happens in the physical. That's what makes the disease so intelligent, is because it uses the way that we have to procreate as a human race to transmit, and it keeps us in bondage by keeping us in fear. It's got our mind all tied up to the point that we won't have the conversations that we need to have in order to evolve as a human race. And we have to evolve quicker than the virus is evolving in order to beat the enemy.
Well, you know, we have said our whole history has been as a people that we don't talk our business.
Right.
You know, even about sexuality, we would say, well, black folks don't have oral sex.
Right.
Yes, you do. Only white folks have oral sex.
Right,
I mean, that, okay.
Right.
And we know that's a lie.
Right.
But it gets down to the core of, I live in a beach state. I can go to a beach, I can see a beautiful black woman with a beautiful body. She'll be all covered up, burning up. I'll see a heavy-set white woman. She'll be totally free.
Right.
You know, and so it gets to the core of our sexuality and how we see ourselves. So this whole message of don't talk our business, if we can't get past that, that's one of the reasons why we can't break our silence. Because at the core, we keep hearing our grandmama say, boy, stop talking my business.
And that's a part of the post-traumatic stress that we're dealing with. You know, it's socially, family, but also the secrets are keeping us sick. Our secrets are keeping us sick. My serenity is directly proportionate to my level of acceptance. And that's my acceptance of me and who I am. And, you know, until I'm willing, if you won't stand for something, you'll die for just about everything that's coming down the pipe. But what we fail to realize is that nobody's going to get out of this thing alive. That's one of the blessings of having been diagnosed with HIV. I've lived life more fully as a result of being diagnosed. And you talked about core beliefs. My core belief is freedom. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s in the south side of Jamaica, Queens, when we were dealing with the civil rights. We watched assassinations, and it was evident to me that something was absolutely wrong in this society. And like the brother said, you know, as quiet as it's kept, and I wouldn't say this out loud, but I was looking for a way out. I was too punked to kill myself, so I used drugs on the slow tip. And most of us are using something. We're all addicted to something. Everybody's addicted to something. It's our addictive nature and our addictive behaviors that's keeping us locked in this cycle. And we won't break it because we won't step outside of the box. You know, when you talk about sex, we can start talking about tantric sex. I can tell you about sexual. Marvin Gaye wasn't wrong when he was talking about sexual healing. Sexual reflexology is the fact that male and female genitalia have reflex points that are matched up to the organs in the body. Long story short, when we're making love and when we have an orgasm, it's the one time that our third eye opens up. The mind shuts down, which is what meditation is about, which is what getting high is about. So we're always trying to get back to fill that void of love, because we say God is love. So trying to get back to the source in many different ways. The virus is using that against us. And if we don't have the conversations and talk about it, then we get stuck in an old paradigm that is not working for us. And the kids know it. I apologize to the sisters for the brothers that aren't here. The brothers aren't here because we know we ain't right. We're just not doing right. And I apologize to the kids whenever I have to go and speak to them, because we are selling them down the river. Capitalistically, if anytime we still have sodas and candies and all of that in the schools, and we're breaking down their immune systems and making them vulnerable, then, and anytime we're afraid to teach them about homosexuality, we're afraid to teach them about things that we know are happening, that are real, then what are we saying? I don't want to go on. I'll just pontificate.
Okay, Ray, don't worry about that. You're doing good. Doing a fine job.
I feel like I'm dominating. Let me test this guy.
I don't know if you all need the mic. I just thought her mic was working.
Okay. Ours working. Hello.
Well, I'm Martinez Brown, and I'm here to tell everyone a story about how my mother saved my life, but I'm going to let her talk first. She's the star here. This is her show. So.
No, it's not my show. You go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm Teresa, Martinez's mom, and when Martinez told me that he was HIV positive, same story. He was going into the Air Force. And, you know, it was a good thing. It was a positive thing. You know, I wanted him off the street. You know, I wanted him to see the world, you know, experience as much as he could experience. And we were planning a party and everything for this kid to go away and, you know, so he can just explore, you know, himself. But I didn't know he wanted to explore himself. But when he told me that he was HIV positive, he actually was looking at me real strange. And I knew something was wrong because I know my kids. You know, I have two boys, 19-year-old and Hip Martinez. But anyway, I'm nervous, excuse me.
You're doing great.
And I don't want to cry, you guys. Okay, so he came in one day and he laid in my lap. And I was rubbing his head and because we always talked. We talked about everything, okay? At 13, I put condoms on his dresser. I didn't know if he was having sex or not, but I still put the condoms on his dresser. So he laid in my lap and I, you know, looked at him and I said, "What's wrong?" And he didn't tell me that day, the first day, but the second day he came in and he said, "Mom, I have something to tell you." And, ooh, I said I'm gonna cry. But he said, "I have something to tell you." And I looked at him and I said, "What is it?" You know, he said, "Well, sit down." I said, "No." I wanted to stand up. And he said, "Mom, I have HIV." I didn't get mad. I didn't say, get away. I didn't turn my back. I didn't, you know, not want to hug him or kiss him. I hug him every day. I kiss him every day, as I do my 19-year-old, every day. And the first thing that I did was grabbed him, hugged him, and kissed him in the mouth. Okay? That's you. In the mouth. And I just told him that it doesn't matter whatever he was going through, I was going to be there to support him. 100%. I had his back. And I was in a relationship at the time. And this ignoramus, he was, because I kicked him out. I said, "You got your hat, now you can get your coat." Okay, because he was not accepting my son for who he was and who he is. You know, he was just seeing the HIV as, you know, oh, they play basketball every day together. But once he found out that my son was HIV positive, it was, oh no, we can't play basketball anymore. You know, I don't know what my friends is going to think, or, you know, or what if someone gets scratched, or this or that. No, because you're ignorant and you're not educated, you don't know. You know, I kicked him out. He comes first. Oh, I love the man, but I love him more. And I don't understand for the life of me why women that have children that's HIV positive, how could you not love your child? How could you not embrace your child and love your child and kiss your child? You know, I just can't understand it. But that's not what I was going to do. I was going to keep loving him as I do now, and I will always love him. You know, I have nieces and nephews, you know, that weren't educated. And when we told everybody, we didn't care. I was like, whatever, man. You know, if you don't want to be around us, then don't be around us. You know, if you can't accept him, then don't be around us. But we didn't keep silent. We let it out. We told everybody. You know, we told everybody. And I didn't want Martinez to walk around like he didn't have no right to be here. He has every right to be here as me, as you, and anybody else that's not HIV positive. And I instilled that in him. And I let him know that this is not for you to lay down and give up. This is not like that. You can live with this, you know, and I was determined to let him live, you know, and I told him, get up, go on with your life, keep it moving, because I'm right behind you. I'm right beside you, and I'm right in front of you. However you want me to be, I'm right there. So let's keep it moving.
Well, that's the position that she took that saved my life. And I really love my mother to death. And I remember, like, going back when I was 18, and let me just say this first. The comment that the young lady made, saying that parents love your children, that really hit home with me, because unconditional love goes a long, long way. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would be here. If it wasn't for my mother's unconditional love for me, I wouldn't be here today. She told me some things like, get up, do something with your life. And I remember the exact day I was depressed about my HIV status. I was in the room every day. I didn't want to come out. And I remember it, like, she came into the room and said, Martinez, I noticed that you're in this room every day and you're not doing anything with yourself. I don't want you to be depressed to the point where you're not going on with your life. You're going to do something with yourself. You still have a lot to live for. And that stuck with me. From that very moment, I was motivated to get out and do something with my life. And because I thought it was over. I had just found out I was HIV positive. I was 18 years old, found out through the Air Force, and I was searching for answers. But the fact that my mother was there and gave me that support, that was instrumental. And me going on and getting educated, it made me see things a different way, and going to the doctor with my mother.
Every visit,
Everything.
I was there. We wanted to know the medication, who the doctor was, what type of doctor was this, what type of person, what was his character. I wanted to know if he was going to be really real with my son. You know, I was there. I quit work to be with him. I did.
And that's extremely important. You know, I always say that it's important that we participate in our own survival. Because if we're not participating in our own survival or salvation, depending on where you're at, then we're most certainly complicit in our own demise. And right now we're doing it to ourselves. You know, it's time for us to mobilize. It's really time for us to act. You know, we know. You know, I talk to my 7-year-old granddaughter all the time, and you know, and she's as smart as she wants to be. But I was smart too. And so the question is, would you rather be smart or would you rather be wise? And she said, what's the difference, Papa? I said, well, you know, smart is knowing something and wisdom is applying it. We know, people know, but we're addicted to our behaviors, so we're not willing to change.
If I can say something right there, Reggie. Now sometimes, you know, we think we're doing the best thing, but in actuality, it could be the wrong thing. I remember when Yolanda got pregnant again, and why
you guys put the business out there like that?
This was the first time she got pregnant after she was diagnosed. Okay, and so I, you know, all the wisdom of ages. I'm her father, and oh Lord, she's HIV positive. Now she's pregnant. Oh my goodness, what about the baby? So reluctantly, you know, we wrestled, and I asked her, you know, to abort the baby, you know, because I thought I was doing the best thing. You know, I thought I was thinking that I was doing the best thing for her, and I guess that might have put a little wedge between our relationship for a while, you know. But she found out she did it, you know, and we had some rough goings for a minute, you know. But then she turned around and had 2 babies, 2 healthy boys, you know, and they're HIV negative. But I'm saying that to say that we don't know all the answers. We think we do, and we think we're doing the right thing. But in actuality, I think well, hell, we're here.
We're here.
So, and we got a relationship, so.
And I need to say that, like, it wasn't, you know, that first pregnancy, you know, like I said, I went through denial, and like I just wanted to be normal. You know, I wanted to live like I had been living. And that first pregnancy, you know, it wasn't my father. But I can still hear my grandparents tell me, you don't want to have a baby, do you? And I got to tell y'all, like, that still messes with me today, but that's not my father. I have a 16-year-old son and I have a 15-year-old son, and they're both negative. I informed them about my status when they were about ages 8 and 9. And as I became educated, I educated my sons. You know, when their father was alive, I had him, we all were in the bedroom, and I had him show my sons how to properly put on condoms. You know, some kids in our complex used to come to my sons to have their questions answered about HIV and AIDS. You know, so I have that conversation with my children. Because I have young men, and I know that the rate of transmission, like, it's so much easier for them to give it to us than for us to give it to them. But at the same time, if they're going to be sexually active, they need to know. You know, and like I shared, my 16-year-old son, we had a conversation not too long ago because he is sexually active, whereas my 15-year-old son isn't. And I said, well, baby, are you using, I didn't want to use his name, but I said, Tyler, are you using the condoms? Because I keep them. I don't have candy dishes in my home. I have condom dishes in my home. I said, well, are you using the condoms? You know, if you're going to do this, make sure you protect yourself. And his response to me was, Mommy, I look at you and I see how you're living with the disease. So it really doesn't matter if I get the disease or not. I see you living with it, but that is not the mentality that I want my child to have. You know, I've had to talk to him and I've had to pray over him, and he's going to some different groups because our young kids are seeing us. They're seeing us on this medication, and for a long time, I've not been on medication. I didn't believe in the medication because when I was diagnosed, they had AZT, and AZT was killing our black people. It was killing them dead. People were diagnosed after me, and I put them in the ground, and I said I would never take that medication. This past week is when I started taking medication.
All right.
But my sons see me living, and other kids see their family members living with the virus, and they think it's okay. Somebody said it earlier, like they have this idea of immortality.
Yes, Reggie was talking about that.
And we've got to dispel that myth quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Let me interrupt for a minute because I want to give time for questions. Can I just say thank you please, thank you so much for all you've shared so far.
I just wanted to say my journey through this HIV/AIDS has come through Phil Wilson I saw when I was a young teenager. And through Phil, I followed Reggie and his wife. And through the years, I've done, some things, gone to college, but I seem to find myself back with this issue. But the young lady who talked about hugging our children, I've watched, my aha moment came when I saw Reggie's story, and I watched not necessarily Reggie, but I watched his wife. And I then said, it is my responsibility to educate my children. I see so many young people, as young as, I tested a little girl, 8 years old, who tested positive for HIV. Her mother brought her in, she was having sex. I think as a black community, we must be accountable for ourselves. I have never seen the influx, and I've moved from Florida to Atlanta, and the kids that I come in contact with, I'm devastated. I cannot believe we walk and you can see a child that needs a hug, and we don't embrace them, and we don't educate them. And I just believe that we can complain, but until we take accountability for our kids, and I mean, you're my child, until we take accountability for ourselves, we can't expect anyone to help us. And I think going back into our communities, we know what the problem is, but we have to do something about it. Like, I'm just thinking about the young ladies that I mentored before I left, and I'm saying, you never know, because I was that kid. I was a teen parent. I was that kid that should have been HIV positive because I was promiscuous. I was that kid that was destined to fail. And I'm meeting young ladies in the same situation, and it took someone to say, you can. And I went to college. But we leave our communities and we don't come back. We don't come back and bring somebody else. And I think especially the younger African-American women, I think it's so important that when we do leave and God does bless us and elevate us, that we don't forget from which we've come. That's it.
Thank you.
I would love to see one of the actionable steps that we take is to start to gather the data that's necessary in order to get greater funding for the female to male transmission.
Okay.
What a wonderful panel. Thanks for sharing your story. The question somebody asked, I'm Golda Downer, Principal Investigator for Howard University's National Multicultural HIV Training Center. We've been in business for 10 years and have educated over 41,000 clinicians to provide culturally competent clinical care and reduce stigma. One person asked about stigma. I'd like to offer you a definition.
Please.
Stigma is the permanent scarring of a person's identity. And I think if we don't talk up enough, scream until everybody hears, nothing will be done. We looked at HIV and stigma in our own clinicians, African-American clinicians, and found out 67% of them said, if you had a history of substance abuse, we won't offer you an HIV test and we won't counsel you. 60% said, if you present with mental health issues, we won't offer you a test, we won't counsel you. 69% said, depending on your sexual practices, we won't offer you an HIV test, we won't counsel you. Stigma, when it's done among our clinicians, is a death sentence. The National Association of People with AIDS is now collecting data, videographs of individuals who have experienced stigma throughout this disease. And I'm hoping that you'll go to the website and sign up, because we have to address this. And until each person sitting on the panel and each person sitting here say no more, no more. You're not asking for anything. Right. Demand that each of us be treated. And as a clinician myself, I make sure I always do that. Be treated with respect and dignity. Then I don't think we'll have any conversation. This will not stop. So right now, you ask what stigma is. What did I just say it was?
Permanent scarring.
I offer you my suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
But there's also different degrees of stigma. Him being gay,
right?
He deserves it. Him being an intravenous drug user, he only got what he deserved. Me, no one knowing that I was an addict, being involved with an intravenous drug user, that poor woman, her husband gave her AIDS. I've heard so many different degrees of stigma, and my thing is, no one gives you AIDS. In 2010, you are willing participants.
All right.
That's right.
That's right. Sex.
Every time you lay down with somebody, you better lay down with them knowing that they are positive for HIV.
That's it. My name is Deshina Franklin. I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
Hey, cousin.
Martinez, it is so wonderful to see you again. I've had the opportunity to work in HIV/AIDS for the last 14 years, and I met Martinez when he was first diagnosed, and it's so wonderful to see him. I just wanted to make a comment to the panel. Thank you for your courage and for showing up. To everybody in the room, I was kind of devastated. I walked in here and didn't see a packed room, because this is why HIV continues to devastate our community. And I would just ask that everybody in this room go home and ask one person, not a kid, but one of your peer group, one of your family members, have they ever been tested? Ask your man, has he ever been tested? Make them lie to you. Ask yourself, have you ever been tested? You know, I've had people walk away from me because, well, what's wrong with you? Why you got to be asking me all these questions? And if you need to leave, then go ahead, because apparently I didn't need you anyway. Absolutely. But like you said, and I truly appreciate you, it's on us. We are each other's eyes and ears. We have survived this long because we take care of each other. But it's like HIV has divided us, and it's something I cannot understand. Because like you said, I love them, I kiss them, I hug them. Because they have more courage as young people. They are open, they are honest, they are out, and there are so many older people who don't have that kind of courage. You know what I'm saying? And education is the key. So please, if you just tell one person, ask them, have they ever been tested? Ask them why not. Right. If you've not been tested, please go get tested. Because knowledge is power. That's true.
Amen.
We only have time for one more question.
Oh, please let it be her, because she's been up and
Come on. Why? Okay. How about two more questions? Two more questions. Sister over here has been patient. Phil be getting the mic.
Okay. Hi, my name is Pamela. I don't really need the mic, but I'm going to use it. Okay. I have to challenge you, ma'am. I have to challenge you with the last statement that you said. I got the love. I got your kind of love. I got your kind of love. I got yours, the whole bunch. Nobody has talked about the individuals with disabilities. No one has talked about our young children, youth with disabilities. And because of that, I challenge that last statement that you said about people choosing and when you get HIV in 2010. That's not correct, because you have not encompassed, you've already stigmatized my daughter. I'm Taylor's mother. That's my name till she becomes, you know. I'm Taylor's mother, and I speak and I fight for Taylor and children like her so that they will have a chance. You stigmatize the individuals when you say that. My daughter has a disability. So me fighting the system, whatever you want to call it, so that she can be inclusive in school, to get an education, hanging out at the Boys and Girls Club, being a part of the Girl Scouts, I had to fight. She's 17. I'm trying to make sure that my daughter, give her everything that I can give her about sexuality and choices, and this is your body, and how to negotiate whether or not to use a condom. I'm including her and looking and reaching out for individuals like this young man here to come and speak to her social group, so that, because HIV is considered a hidden disability. But then I hear what you just said about...
It's another unmet need.
Yeah, so while we say people are more likely in this society today to have better choices, when we are forgetting the vulnerable, like the children with the disabilities or the young adults or the adults with the disabilities, that's not fair. But I need you, I still love you, and I love your fire and the passion, and I'm demanding that we talk later on, because we love each other. We're right. But until then, when we talk about the HIV and how it's impacting our culture and our women, can we include the people that have disabilities. Can we?
See, this is.
Can we include them?
AIDS is not an alone disease.
No.
But you just brought to all of our attention.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to cry, but when you said that, I'm like, I gotta fight.
This is everybody.
Yes, it's everybody's.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna make a comment. Please get some softer tissues. This stuff is hard.
Lord.
This is hard.
I know, I should have brought a tissue box. Okay, we have a lot of people that really want to talk. And so Rob, I'm going to ask you to be really brief. And I had promised Cleo from the first panel that he could say something. And so now I'm going to go with, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, and thank you to the panelists for being here. My name is Robin Stone. I'm a journalist based in New York. I write about health and parenting issues. And my two parts. One question goes to Reggie. You mentioned there's an unmet need of families dealing with AIDS, and I wanted to have you talk in more detail about the specifics of that. And when this sister spoke, Bambi, earlier, she talked about, folks having unprotected sex, but you said multiple partners, with multiple partners. So I wanted to have you talk about that issue, too, the multiple partners issue. But if you could talk about the unmet needs in more specifics, would appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stone, and I would love to answer, but hopefully I can defer that question to my wife.
When I talk about the unmet needs of people affected by it, I'm talking about that family. I'm talking about that little girl that is not getting her needs met because I'm ignorant to the fact that she's got a disability and she can't protect herself. I'm talking about the emotional stuff that people, that the family goes through watching a loved one infected by HIV and not having anywhere to go to get any type of counseling, to get any type of massage therapy, to get their needs met while they're being a caretaker of someone who has been diagnosed positive. Because I do not like the word infected because I think about a sore. But when I look at it as a positive, it makes me feel better. But anyway, that's what when I talk about our unmet needs. Because if my needs aren't being met emotionally, I can't help it. If I break down, the family breaks down.
Not only that, but I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called HIV Anonymous. We've got a program called Positive Attitudes that mirrors and was taken from 12-step programs like Narcotics Anonymous and AA. It works the same way, and we have seen it. We, in our lives and in the lives of others, meet that need where it just creates an atmosphere that's conducive to honest sharing, to open-mindedness, and to creating a willingness and getting people to identify with just how we are all affected. And when that light goes on, then people begin to change their behaviors because then you can no longer just accept yourself doing the same thing. And even if you do, then it raises consciousness. So we have some healing solutions that are available. And things are getting better. There was a time when we wouldn't be having this conversation. There was a time when there wouldn't be a conversation about we are greater than AIDS because we were still hiding. That's right. And I could be in a room and information could be on television or wherever it could be. But if I didn't want you to know that I was HIV positive, I'd have to act like I didn't hear it. And so, now we're becoming more open-minded and we are greater than AIDS. We have to really put that out there. We have to really shift the paradigm. We have to speak it into existence. We have to move it into the mental and into the spiritual. Everybody's not going to get it. I always like to allude to Harriet Tubman, who I'm told said she freed hundreds of slaves, but she could have freed thousands more had they only known that they were slaves. Some of us gonna have to go. I've watched people scare themselves to death. They've been told that we were gonna die in 6 months and they died in 5 because they didn't want to see what was gonna happen in the 6 months.
Thank you, Reggie.
About the, I'm sorry, you were talking about the multiple partners. I was in a domestically violent relationship for 11 years as a result of me not disclosing to my partner that I was positive. as a result of that, I have 2 beautiful sons. I determined that after that relationship was over, that I would never, ever keep that a secret from anybody else. Now, when I meet a young man, well, my taste is older men, but when I meet a man, you know, sorry, and we having that conversation, you know, one of the first things I let them know is, you know, everything that look good ain't good for you. You need to know that I'm positive. And a lot of times I get, you're lying to me, you know, I don't believe you, or, well, I still want to have sex with you, and I still want to have unprotected sex with you. And I can't understand that for the life of me. Like, then I start thinking, well, baby, what's wrong with you, and what are you trying to give to me? You know, because I've heard about these people called bug chasers.
Yeah.
You know, who in their right mind, if you are negative, would intentionally, I mean knowingly, go to parties, bareback parties, with people who are positive and intentionally put yourself at risk of contracting the virus?
Well, I think that's because we're operating under the assumption that even though the human instinct is to want to live, that everybody really does want to live. I mean, and this gets back to just society again. There's stuff out here. And folks we're emotionally damaged. And in my estimation, in a covert fashion, many of us really are having a hard time being on the planet. And so we're willing, the kids, you know, feel bulletproof. It's like, it don't matter. And when I was a kid, it was like, I ain't gonna live forever anyway, so what? You know, in the vernacular of the streets, it usually boils down to 2 words. One of the first of which begins with an F. And, you know, we look at it as apathy, but it's really just a, hey, man, you know, this thing ain't gonna last. Let's get ready to blow up anyway. I'm going out
with a bang.
With a bang. And it's gonna be all right. So I just want to say one thing else. And God blessed me with a wonderful family. They thought I was crazy when I was 116 pounds, 6'4", and they were saying I was going to die, that I would have my son videotape the entire experience. But that's the most powerful thing to show kids and show people is what it looks like, what it really looks like. Because we only come out when we're looking good. But for folks to see what it looks like on the other side, you know, I know you can't scare someone out of their behavior, but that seems to leave an indelible mark on the minds. And so I think we need to see more of what it looks like on the other side as well.
I hope I'm clear, because I have so many issues in my head, I might sound schizophrenic. but I hope I don't. You said more than once that there was an enemy. When I finish, please, I would like you to tell me who that is, because you never ever were clear about that. Okay. And the sister over here mentioned about how some of us don't come back to the community. And you also said that brothers aren't here because we know we ain't right. Remember, you heard that?
I said that.
I was very concerned about the women's panel, and I have to start there because I'm just getting my first time to speak, because I was concerned about the women's panel re-stigmatizing black men. Because there has been very little, including at this Congressional Black Caucus and generally over the years, focus on affirming, attending to, loving, nurturing, saving black men.
Right.
Which is a setup. Because I've been saying this for 20 years. Before black women were on the radar, I said you got to do this work on the black tip in a way that's culturally fluid, not just gay identified, but it has a spectrum approach that includes the lives of black men and women and all kinds of people, or else black women and men who don't identify as gay, who might be involved in sex with men and women, et cetera, are not going to come to the party. But I was boo-hooed and marginalized because I didn't have a gay identity, agenda, and advocacy approach to dealing with HIV and AIDS. Women have HIV because black men have HIV.
Right.
It's a sit-up that we keep on finding new angles in which to marginalize and re-injure the spirits of black men. Black women need to be saved. trust me, I love black women as much as I love black men. So this is not a side that I'm talking about strategy here.
Right.
Strategically, black men need to be addressed. There should have been something here called with a brother's mouth wide open. Where the thing at? There should have been something with a brother's mouth wide open called brother and sister speak.
Right. Well.
And one day, brothers speak, but sisters invited. So I'm going to close with this. If we do not do some work around what black men are dealing with, the depression, you said, and I'm closing right now, I promise, no gun needed, I'm going to shut up on my own. You said that, where the thing, I have to write this stuff down because I got so much for mine. You said that brothers don't know they're not right. A lot of black people are very cognitively capable and intellectually sound. But many of us are emotionally disoriented. Mentally sound, but emotionally disoriented because of trauma. You mentioned trauma, but it needs to be broken down. There needs to be a panel on dealing with the culture of risk in the black community and trauma, which keeps on being said as a buzzword in passing, but not broken down. Black men finally need to be attended to in ways that are restorative, as opposed to re-stigmatizing. Because another definition for stigma is fear of not being loved, ever.
Right.
Fear of not being accepted, ever. Fear of retribution, again.
That's the core. You got it.
So please, next year or tomorrow, include in this work and restoration of dealing with the men that you're going to be put at risk by if you don't actually address their issues, because their issues are still unknown, because they're constantly dismissed and made into a problem like what happened on Oprah with J.L. King, et cetera. That re-menaced and re-vilified black men and created another chasm as opposed to a solution to resolving this issue in our community.
I like what you said. And, you know, I think it's a deeper issue, and I feel like black men particularly, are afraid of being themselves. I don't know what's going on in our culture, but it's something about, it's just that we can't accept who we are. It's an evolution that needs to happen. I mean, my mother went through her own evolution. She knew that I was gay a long time ago before I even told her.
Hallelujah.
But, you know, she never mentioned it to me because I guess she was afraid, and she may be able to explain that and why she was afraid, but I actually don't know the reason. But,
afraid to what?
Afraid to tell, afraid to come to me and say, hey, I
wasn't
know.
Afraid. I wasn't afraid.
But
I was waiting on him.
But, you know, I was just, I wanted that information. I wanted some information at a very young age. What do I need to do to protect myself as a young gay man? I didn't have that information, and I'm sure that my mother knows that, you know, she feels that there's some things that she would have done differently had she had the opportunity. But with the information I got afterwards, with her help, I wasn't confused about who I was. I wasn't making choices based upon me not accepting my sexuality and going out infecting men and women.
Right.
I wasn't making those type of choices, but I feel like, yeah, it's an identity crisis, and I think black men need to learn how to accept themselves and just accept yourself, and then it'll start from there.
I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
And just to add, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and during our town hall meetings across the country, I did do a specific town hall meeting in New York City around men. And it was called Real Men Fight AIDS, and we partnered with the National Action Network. We also partnered with Real Men Cook, and the New York Health Department, and the AIDS Center in Queens County. And so we have had those discussions, and so and that's before you joined the Ally Partnership, so you might not be aware. But so we are also, it's not enough, but I do actually have that videotape, and we will be having clips on our website.
Well, I need y'all to come to Broward County.
Okay, oh yeah, we're going to Florida.
That's right, come on to Broward House. Yes.
So let me just, because I have two things that have to happen. First, I want to thank this panel, because this was incredible. Thank you. And we're going to have two more announcements. One, we're going to talk about the other city coming, and then the last one I know you're going to want to stay for, because it's about money. And we have the National AIDS Fund making an announcement here about money that is available. And so I know you're going to want to stay around for that, even though we're going over time. So we're going to have to be quick with it. But Candy will be around afterwards. I know that they're going to shift this room into something else, but I think that, you know, if people want to get around Candy for that more information. And she has some handouts, and we'll have and the handouts will be available on the table outside about the money, but let's listen to her after Mr. Phil Wilson from the Black AIDS Institute.